Welcome to Toastmaster Time, the show that has everybody talking. My name's Steve today, and for tonight's episode, I will be your host. As with all Toastmasters meetings, we have prepared speeches, and the speeches are evaluated so the speakers can get some feedback so the next time they give the speech, it will be even better. We're pleased to have as our evaluator tonight, Michelle Pedicolis. Michelle, can you tell us what we have in store for us for tonight's show?
Hi, Steve. Good evening, and I am excited to share what we have in store for our lineup tonight. We have a full agenda with 3 speakers, all speaking about different subjects. Our first speaker is going to take us into the land of entrepreneurship and how to increase your sales with targeted promotions. Our next speaker is going to take us into the land of gaming and explain how digital gaming is actually an arena for inclusion and empowerment. And our final speaker is going to be talking about herself. She's doing an icebreaker, but she is a funny lady, so we have saved the humor for the end of our show. Back to you, Steve.
All right, fantastic, Michelle. And I would like to introduce our first speaker tonight. That would be Gary McKenzie. Gary, welcome to Toastmaster Time.
Thank you so much, Steve. Delighted to be here.
Well, we're delighted to have you. You're a member of Heart to Heart Toastmasters.
Correct.
Terrific. And what initially brought you to Toastmasters?
Initially, first of all, I was scared to death of public speaking. But a longtime client invited me to attend a program because he was in a contest as who could bring the most members. And I didn't want to disappoint him, so I said, well, sure, I'll go. I did not know it was Toastmasters.
Oh, all right. And what has been your favorite role in Toastmasters?
Initially my favorite role was speaking. However, it's transitioning now to table topics, to the impromptu speaking. I find that helps me a lot when I'm out in public and speaking and getting asked those off-the-cuff questions and you need a quick answer.
Right, right. And how have your Toastmasters activities helped you outside of Toastmasters?
Well, Steve, today I'm a professional speaker and business coach, so the abilities that I've developed in Toastmasters to speak confidently and succinctly helped me earn a living today by being a public speaker.
All right, fantastic, Gary. Are you ready to give your speech?
Steve, I am ready.
All right. Well, we'll let you get ready, get everything together, and I look forward to hearing your message.
Thank you.
All right. So Gary McKenzie is on the path Dynamic Leadership. It's a level 3 project, Inspire Your Audience. Gary McKenzie, power up your year end. Power up your year end. Gary McKenzie.
Picture this. It's December 31st. You're hearing the sound of the alarm. It's New Year's. You raise your glass to celebrate and toast, but you're not just toasting a new year, you're toasting the fact that you've had a fantastic year. You have crushed your year-end projections. Your profits have gone through the roof, and you have a huge number of loyal clients. Are you thinking, wow, how could I make that my vision? I have good news for you. I have a program that's tried and true. It can be a game changer for your business. Now again, this isn't theory. This is a tried and true program that when you follow it, it will help you power up your year end. Now, before we step in and understand the program, let me ask a question of you. What would it mean for you and your business if you actually crushed your financial year end? What would that mean? Stop and think about that for a moment. Got it? Let's roll up our sleeves and think about what's included in this program. First of all, you have to know your customers. You have to know them like the back of your hand. Hey, and this is easy. You've got that. You own the business. You know your customer. And here are 4 critical questions for you to answer. Number 1, are my clients price sensitive? Number 2, are they concerned about quality? What's their concern about quality? And convenience. What do they think about convenience? And then you need to know, what do your clients say about your business? How do they talk about you? So those are the 4 critical elements for you to use to power up your year end, to turbocharge that last quarter of the year so that you can finish your year strong. In fact, think about this. Put yourself in this place. It's December 31st, and now you are listening. You hear the clock ticking, and now you are holding up your glass to celebrate your year end because you have just crushed your financials. You had a show-stopping year end. In fact, you're thinking about giving yourself a high five. When I think about high five, I think about a client of mine. In fact, had you been with me last January, you would have saw Tom step into my office and say, "Hey, high five, high five." I said, "Tom, that's great, but why?" It's Gary. I have crushed my year end. I've had a great financial year end, great clients. Everything worked well. Well, Tom, how did you do that? Gary, I took to heart what you've been talking about targeted promotions. Now let me tell you what Tom did. Tom owns a catering service, but Tom knows his customers. He knows they're somewhat price sensitive like everyone. He also knows they're very concerned about quality, and convenience is a big deal with his customers. And in his marketing message, he used the words that his customers used to describe his business. Hey, now come back here with me. This is a big deal. The language that your customers used to describe doing business with you. For after all, Tom, like maybe you, and certainly myself, we're challenged. We're thinking, well, we'll talk about our business in our terms. No. You want to use the terminology that your customer uses. And you're thinking, why is that important? Well, that's important because when you're talking to your customer in your marketing material and you're using the same words and phrases that they use, you're connecting with them emotionally and you're connecting with them subconsciously. And when that happens, it increases the know, like, and trust. And when your customer trusts you, they're going to do business with you. So when you come to the year end and you hear that clock striking 12, you'll be able to hold up your glass and cheer the fact that you have crushed your year end. You've seen your profits go through the roof, and you have a huge number of loyal clients. Back to you, Steve.
All right, Gary, fantastic speech. Michelle, what did you think of Gary's speech, and do you have some feedback for him?
Thank you, Steve. Yes, it was an amazing speech, and it really had me leaning in because I'm an entrepreneur and I'm interested in what Gary has to say. He's been a very successful entrepreneur for quite a while. He opened up his speech with a great visual image about reaching that end of the year and celebrating great success. And then he went on to explain what you can do to increase your year-end sales. He used his stage. He used gestures. He even gave a conversation that he had with one of his clients. If I would make any kind of stretch goal, I would say, Gary, use a different voice so we can tell when your client's speaking and when you're speaking. But overall, it was an excellent speech, and I got a lot out of it. Back to you, Steve.
All right. Thank you very much, Michelle. And I would like to introduce our second speaker tonight, John Wilhelm. John, welcome to Toastmaster Time.
Thank you so much, Steve. So excited to be here.
I'm excited that you're here. Now, you're a member of City Speech Toastmasters, correct?
That's correct. A proud member.
A proud member.
Toastmaster.
Terrific, terrific. And what initially brought you to Toastmasters?
You know, I come from a big Jewish family in Long Island, New York, where speaking is something that's done arguably too much. And so the art of speaking for me is often about speaking less. And so Toastmasters has been profound for me in learning how to lessen my message to make it more clear.
Lessen your message to make it more clear. And what has been your favorite role in Toastmasters?
You know, fun fact, last night was my first time actually acting as Toastmaster in a Toastmasters meeting. And I have to say, as somebody who was probably a game show host in a former life, I don't know if Chuck Woolery was still alive when I was born, but there might have been some sort of reincarnation thing. I loved it. Being Toastmaster was so much fun, facilitating the conversation, making space for everybody, and keeping everybody on time. It was a blast.
And how have those roles helped you outside of Toastmasters?
Well, I work with a nonprofit called Games for Love, and we are a charity that makes sure that kids in hospitals have access to video games as a way to improve their health outcomes. And this involves a lot of appearing on podcasts, producing a podcast called the Gaming Career Lab, and really just talking a lot and expressing passion in a way that leads to people participating in our vision. So it's helped me to do so in a way that's more effective, more dynamic, and honestly, just a lot more fun.
All right, fantastic. Well, we're waiting to hear more from you. Are you ready to give your speech?
I'm ready to go.
Okay, terrific. Well, we'll let you get set up, and I will introduce your message and what your project is.
Awesome.
All right. So John Wilhelm is from City Speech Toastmasters. He's on the visionary communication path. A level 1 project, evaluation and speech and feedback. Speech number 1. John Wilhelm, Beyond Pixels, Radical Inclusion in Gaming. Beyond Pixels, Radical Inclusion in Gaming. John Wilhelm.
Imagine with me for a moment. Picture a room. Make it morning. Golden sunlight streams through the curtains as they dance softly in the breeze of an open window. This room is in a city, in a neighborhood, in a house, much like the one that you grew up in. As we look around the room, we find that we are not alone. We are joined by Mia. Now, Mia is a kid, and a kid that looks like any other. Mia looks out at her world through big brown eyes full of energy and curiosity and excitement. Only Mia was born with agenesis of the colostrum of her mind, which means that she was born without the tissue that connects the two hemispheres of her brain. So Mia is presented with this disorder, which is called ACC, with all sorts of challenges, including challenges with coordination, with communication, and with understanding her world. Now, let's zoom out for a moment. Let's zoom all the way out past this room, past this city, past this country, all the way out to the planet. Let's take our planet and let's flip it 180 degrees on its axis. We've now gone forward 12 hours. It's no longer the morning, it's the evening. And we find Mia returning home after a challenging day in a world that doesn't always understand her and the way that she interacts with the world. Only now we find Mia entering a different world. A world where Mia can be a hero, can be a builder, can be part of a community rooted in purpose and accomplishment. We find Mia entering the world of video games and the radical inclusion that you find therein. Now, for many, possibly for you, and certainly for me at one point in my life, the idea of gaming was purely one of entertainment. Now, for many people like Mia, it's so much more than that. It's a lifeline. It's a connection. It's an ability to be part of something that goes beyond our limitations. Now, there's a recent study conducted by the International Game Development Association, or IGDA. And the IGDA frames gaming as an expansive medium in which gamers, players, can experience all kinds of different parts of life, even new realms, new realities. For someone like Mia, this means so much more than it could possibly mean to anybody who inhabits a normal walk of life that does not include the limitations that Mia has. When Mia enters this world of gaming, she's instantly no longer the kid that struggles with coordination. She is the master strategist coordinating her allies in a strategy game. She's no longer the kid that has a hard time and is puzzled by social cues. Instead, she's the charismatic leader rallying those same allies to victory in an incredible, memorable online battle. And that is the nature of the radical inclusion of gaming, and why I'm so excited to be talking to you today, and hopefully changing at least one mind about this incredibly important, incredibly influential industry in our world. Now, before we go further, let's talk about three key terms that are at the core of this concept of radical inclusion. First is accessibility. This goes way beyond ramps and elevators. What we're talking about here is designing games that anyone can play, regardless of their disability status. A profound example of this is Xbox's adaptive controller, with which anybody can play games together. The second concept is called inclusive game design. Now, inclusive game design is a way of creating games that reflects the diverse world around us. This includes ethnicities, hair textures, vocal intonations, gender expressions, and the many other infinite nuances that make up this beautiful humanity that we are. And the third topic and concept to talk about is neurodiversity. This is a term that addresses, acknowledges, and completely respects the many different ways that our minds can work. This includes autism and ADHD. Now, when we return to this concept of radical inclusion, and we look again towards the International Game Developers Association, we find that they have understood in a new way how gaming can not only include, but it can unlock new ways of interacting with the world. So as we look differently at gaming, and we think about this lens of radical inclusion, think about this. I invite you to consider that gaming can be so much more than just pixels and sound effects. It can be a community. It can be the way that somebody finds access and quite possibly for the first time in their life goes beyond limitations that might have actually not only limited their life, but abbreviated it. So as we think differently about this and we look through this lens of inclusion, this is an incredible source of inspiration for me and for many. The International Game Developers Association assessed the gamer population and through a huge global survey determined that 46% of global gamers, that's 46% of gamers around the world, have some physical, mental, or cognitive disability. That is a huge potential player base. And I am so proud of this industry for continuously innovating to find ways to include people more actively. So, taking Mia's story into account, here's my call to action and my invitation to you. The next time you see someone gaming, think for a moment and pause and reflect on that radical inclusion. And perhaps that person is fighting a battle that goes way beyond that screen. And know this, that in that virtual world, the strength, the camaraderie, and the community that they're finding is as real as it gets. Let's create a world where we all are able to be reflected more completely, and Mia and you and me can all be seen and celebrated that much more. Because in a world where we could have infinite lives, in this world of video games, there are no boundaries. There are only possibilities and radical inclusion. Thank you so much, and back to you, Steve.
All right, John, thank you for the great message. Michelle, can you tell us what you thought of John's speech and a little bit of feedback on how it could be even better next time?
Thank you, Steve. Yes, it was an amazing speech, and I have to admit, I have some attitude about gaming, especially its potential to addict people. But I love the persuasive points that John made about how gaming can create a reality for people who are otherwise held back or special. It was a very persuasive speech, great opening, a great visual image, and the example of Mia that really drew me in, that made me involved, that made me care about her. If he wanted to stretch a little bit or challenge himself, I would invite him to use the stage a little bit more. He's got a very persuasive speech. He could be coming in closer to the camera and really speaking to us to engage us more. Also, he might consider the possibility of bringing in the issue of addiction, which is one of the issues that parents have about their children's gaming. Back to you, Steve.
All right, thank you, Michelle. And I am delighted to introduce our third speaker tonight, Barbara Gross. Barbara, welcome.
Hello.
Yeah. Now, what club are you a member of?
I'm a member of Heart to Heart.
Heart to Heart. All right, terrific. And what brought you to Toastmasters initially?
Well, in 2012, I worked for a company that had Toastmasters group, and I started then, and then I met a great group of women, and that's when I joined Heart to Heart.
That's when you joined Heart to Heart. And what particular roles have you enjoyed the most in Toastmasters?
I think table topics, because I like the improv of it all.
The improv of it all. And how have these activities in Toastmasters helped you outside of Toastmasters?
Well, it really has made my speaking so much better.
Great, great. Well, we can't wait to hear from you tonight. Are you ready to give your speech?
Sure.
All right, well, we'll give you a second to get set up, and then I will introduce your project, your message, and your title.
Great.
Okay, thanks a lot, Barbara. Now, Barbara Gross is a member of Heart to Heart Toastmasters. Her path is engaging humor. She's doing a level 1 icebreaker speech. Barbara Gross. Barbara from Boston. Barbara from Boston. Barbara Gross.
Well, hello. My name is Barbara, and I'm from Boston. You might hear a very faint accent. Okay, maybe it's not so faint. Where you really hear the accent is any word that has the letter A before the letter R, because I'll pronounce it like A-H. For example, car, park, Harvard, yard. Now, the closer you live to Boston, the stronger the accent. And I grew up 5 minutes north. As a matter of fact, Chelsea, Massachusetts, born and raised, just like the shirt says. However, I went to college at the University of Massachusetts in Amherst. That's 2 hours west. They do not have an accent. My major was education, and I was in an internship program to student teach these 3rd and 4th graders. I was giving them a spelling test, and the spelling word was car. They said, "What's that?" I said, "It's another word for automobile, and if you don't get it right, it's not my problem." Now, another time, my friends and I thought it would be fun during spring break to drive to Florida. So it was my turn when we hit Georgia, and we were a little hungry. So I pulled into a hamburger drive-through, and I proceeded to roll down the window and enter the whole order for the group into their microphone. The response I received was, "Could you repeat that?" Well, okay, I repeated the whole order, and this is what I heard back from them. "We're really sorry, ma'am. We didn't understand a word you said. Could you drive up to the window so we can read your lips?" Now, I'm the youngest in my family and the last one to leave the nest, and I was already living away at college. So my parents were free to retire to a warmer climate. If you're from New England, most likely you're going to retire in Florida, and that's where they went. But it was too humid for my father, so I said, "Go to California, go to California." So they go to California, and they said they found a great place to live called La Jolla. So I said, "Great." And when I graduated, I wanted to check out La Jolla. We were calling it La Jolla for the longest time. Come to find out, it's really pronounced La Jolla. I mean, who knew you're supposed to pronounce J's like H's? Not in Boston. I went to a Mexican restaurant. I'm looking at the menu, and I asked the waiter, "What are these things? Japarinos?" He said, "They're not Japarinos, they're jalapenos." Oh, once again, that JH combination. So I wanted to order a pizza. I got on the phone, I put in my order. They said, "What's your name?" I said, "Barbara." They said, "Bob?" I said, "Barbara." They said, "What?" I said, forget it, Cindy, I'll be there. You know, I really didn't need a bond with these people. I just wanted a pizza. Another time, this guy asked me if I played tennis. I said, well, I'm not that good, but I have great effort. And his face did this contortion. Well, I knew what I said, and it didn't deserve a face contortion. So I asked him, what do you think I just said to you? And he thought I said, I'm not that good, but I have a great outfit. I mean, that would be the last thing I would say to anybody. Now, at a certain point in time, I got into playing Texas Hold'em with my friends. And we were having a lot of fun and winning, but I decided maybe I should get a book on the subject to learn new strategies and get some expertise. Once I was at the bookstore, I was looking around, I couldn't find anything. So I went up to the manager and I asked him, do you have any books on poker? So he went to his computer and he's looking and he's looking, and I thought to myself, I don't understand. They should have at least a couple of books. It was very popular at the time. And he said, I'm sorry, I can't find any books. So I said, can I look at your monitor to see what you're searching on? And when I looked at his monitor, he was searching for this outdated dance that hasn't been around for years called the polka, Polka. I said, I'm not looking for things on the polka, the dance. I'm looking for information on the card game poker. Well, we had a good laugh. Now, in closing, I'm just going to share with you something I heard that I do believe is true, that you learn most of your vocabulary by the age of 9. And I'll give you an example. Growing up, one of my best friend's father's name was Carl, C-A-R-L. When I think of him, I say Carl. Now, once I'm in California, I went to a hamburger place that I had never been to before in Boston, and it was called Carl's Jr., C-A-R-L. When I think of her father, I say Carl. When I think of the hamburger place, I say Carl. So it's not that I can't say it. I've lived in California for over 30 years now, and I don't think I'm losing this accent anytime soon. I think it's going to have to be surgically removed. But in closing, I just want to thank you for listening to my stories about the trials and tribulations about having a Boston accent. Thank you very much.
All right, Barbara. Michelle's joined us. Michelle, tell us about Barbara's speech and what you liked about it and ideas that you might have for her.
I loved her speech. I really enjoyed the humor and the examples of the misunderstandings. She had many, and she had a lot of funny turnarounds that were surprising. So she's really an excellent humorist, something that I would certainly like to have in my speeches. If she was to have any kind of stretch goal, I would invite her to use the stage a little more. And I understand that all of us have learned to speak on that tiny little TV on Zoom, and we have lost our ability to move around. So there's going to be a little learning curve. But I know that when she adds a little bit more of that use of the stage, it's even going to be better.
All right. She got me when she said Cindy. When she placed that order
great.
And she gave up and said Cindy. So.
I don't need to bond with them.
Right. So terrific. Well, that's our show for tonight. We appreciate you tuning in. We record in the San Francisco Bay Area. If you'd like to find out more about Toastmaster Time, please go to toastmastertime.com. If you'd like to find out more about District 57 Toastmasters, the organization that sponsors our show, please go to d57tm.org. And to find out more about Toastmasters in general and how to find a club near you, please go to toastmasters.org. We are grateful for the talented staff and volunteers at the Media Center in Palo Alto, and to our great speakers tonight, Gary, John, and Barbara, and our evaluator, Michelle. We encourage you to check out Toastmasters and keep on talking.